No one wanted the house on the hill, but the widow moved in and heard something that changed her life. Patricia Miller opened her eyes in the dark, her heart beating out of rhythm. She was absolutely certain she had heard something coming from the upstairs floor. A muffled sound, almost like a stifled cry. She lay completely still on the thin mattress she had found in the house's storage room, trying to control her breathing to hear better. The silence was now total, only the wind beating against the old windows. Maybe it was just her nerves. After all, it was her first night in that house, which the entire town of Pine Ridge avoided, as if it were cursed. But Patricia had no choice. At 50 years old, a widow for just 4 months, with no money in the bank and her savings consumed by the expenses of Richard's illness, that property inherited from an uncle she barely knew was all she had left. She pulled the thin blanket up to her chin, feeling the cold of the June night seep through the gaps in the poorly sealed windows. When the lawyer had appeared with the news of the inheritance, Patricia thought her luck had finally changed. But the expression on the man's face when he mentioned the address should have served as a warning. There was the sound again, clearer this time, a muffled sob, definitely human. Patricia sat up in bed, her body tense. Her first instinct was to run outside, to seek help, but something stopped her. Maybe it was that stubbornness Richard always said would get her into trouble one day, or perhaps it was the memory of all the times she herself had needed help and no one had come. She got up slowly, her bare feet touching the icy wooden floor. The house creaked under her weight, as if waking from a deep sleep. Patricia fumbled blindly for the oil lamp she had left on the dresser. Her hands trembled as she lit the wick with the old lighter she carried in her robe pocket. The weak flame light danced across the peeling walls, casting strange shadows. Patricia held the lamp tightly and walked to the bedroom door. The hallway stretched out before her, long and dark, with the staircase at the far end leading to the second floor. Every step seemed to echo through the empty house. She climbed the steps one by one, testing each one before putting her full weight on it. The old wood groaned under her feet, announcing her approach. The sound of crying had stopped again, but Patricia was sure of what she had heard. She wasn't going crazy, no matter what others might think. At the top of the stairs, 3 closed doors awaited her. She brought the lamp closer to the first one, turned the rusty doorknob. The room was empty, just dusty boxes stacked against the walls. She closed the door and moved to the second. More of the same, furniture covered with old sheets that looked like ghosts in the dim light. The third door was slightly ajar. Patricia pushed it open slowly, the screech of the hinges cutting through the silence. It was a room larger than the others, with an old bookcase leaning against the back wall. And that's when she saw the movement, a small shadow shrinking behind the bookcase. Patricia's heart raced, but she forced her voice to come out steady. "Who's there?" Silence. Only the heavy breathing of someone trying to stay quiet. Patricia approached carefully, raising the lamp. The light revealed a narrow gap between the bookcase and the wall, and there, huddled in the tight space, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. Her dark hair was tangled, her dirty face stained with recent tears. The child stared at her with huge eyes full of terror, like a cornered animal. She wore a worn-out t-shirt and shorts that must have once been blue, but were so dirty the color was barely distinguishable. "Hey, it's okay," Patricia tried to soften her voice, bending down to be at the girl's level. "I won't hurt you. You can come out." The child shook her head violently, pressing herself even harder against the wall. Patricia felt something tighten in her chest. That fear wasn't normal. It wasn't just the fright of being discovered. It was the kind of fear that comes from having been hurt before. "My name is Patricia," she continued, keeping her voice low and calm. "This is my home now. I inherited it from my uncle. Are you hungry?" The girl didn't answer, but Patricia saw her eyes move quickly, as if she was calculating her chances of escape. She was too thin, her cheeks sunken, her arms as thin as twigs. Patricia placed the oil lamp on the floor and sat down, showing that she wouldn't come any closer. "You know, I'm a little afraid of this house too," she admitted. "It's very big and old and it creaks all night. It would be nice to have some company. How about you come out from there and we talk a little? I promise I won't make you do anything you don't want to." It took nearly 15 minutes of gentle talking, with Patricia telling about her move, about the dog she had seen wandering near the house during the day, about anything that came to mind, until the girl finally moved. First just a small movement, then another. Gradually she came out from behind the bookshelf. Up close, Patricia could see the child's condition better. Her bare feet were cut and dirty, her nails broken. There was a yellowish bruise on her left arm, already old. The t-shirt had stains that looked like food, but also something darker. The girl smelled of sweat and fear. "What's your name?" Patricia asked gently. The girl opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. When the voice finally came out, it was just a hoarse whisper. "Emma." "Emma," Patricia repeated, attempting a smile. "That's a pretty name. How long have you been here, Emma?" The girl shrugged, averting her gaze. Patricia realized she probably didn't know for sure. Days, perhaps. Or weeks. "You must be very hungry," Patricia said, standing up slowly so as not to scare the child. "I'll go downstairs and make something. You can come with me or stay here, whatever you prefer. But I'll leave the door open, okay?" Emma didn't answer, but she didn't run away either. Patricia picked up the oil lamp and went down the stairs, her heart heavy with thoughts she didn't want to have. A child living hidden in a house that everyone avoided. Thin, hurt, terrified. What had happened to her? In the kitchen, Patricia lit the gas lamp she had bought in town before moving. The brighter light revealed the room's poor condition, with old cabinets and an old stove. She still wasn't sure worked. In the bag she had brought, she found bread, margarine, and some fruit she had managed to buy with the little money she had left. She made simple sandwiches and put them on a tray with a glass of water. When she returned to the second floor, Emma was still in the same spot, but now sitting on the floor with her knees hugged to her chest. Upon seeing the food, her eyes widened. Patricia placed the tray on the floor and stepped back. "It's all yours. You can eat as much as you want." The girl hesitated for only a second before throwing herself at the food. She ate with a voracity that broke Patricia's heart, swallowing large pieces without chewing properly, as if she was afraid someone would take the food away from her at any moment. When she finished, she looked up at Patricia with an expression that mixed gratitude and fear. "Thank you," she whispered. Patricia felt her eyes sting. She blinked quickly to hold back the tears. "You can sleep here tonight if you want," she offered. "Tomorrow we'll talk more, but you need to tell me what happened, Emma. You need to tell me how you ended up here." The girl shook her head, fear returning to her eyes. "They'll find me." Her voice was a thread. "Who?" "Them. They'll take me back." "Back to where?" But Emma didn't answer. She just shrank back again, hugging her knees and hiding her face. Patricia realized she wouldn't get anything more that night. "It's okay," she said softly. "You don't have to tell me now, but I'll get a blanket so you can be more comfortable." She went to the room where she was sleeping and came back with the second blanket she had brought. Emma accepted it without a word, wrapping herself in it immediately. Patricia sat there for a few more minutes just watching the child. Gradually, Emma's breathing became slower and more regular. Extreme exhaustion had finally overcome fear. When Patricia went downstairs again, she was no longer sleepy. She sat in one of the old kitchen chairs, her mind racing. That girl was running from someone, that much was clear. The marks on her body suggested mistreatment, but running from whom? From her parents? From some orphanage? From a foster family? The situation was complicated. If Patricia went to town to get help, Emma would probably run away. And where would such a young child go all alone? But if she didn't seek help, she would be hiding someone that other people were certainly looking for. People who had legal rights over the child, regardless of how they treated her. Patricia ran a hand over her tired face. 4 months ago, her biggest worry was taking care of Richard, making sure he didn't suffer in his final days. Now she was in an old house on an isolated hill, with a traumatized child hidden upstairs. No money, no plan, no idea what to do. But as she thought about it, a certainty began to form in her chest. That girl had ended up there for a reason. Fan Patricia, who had spent months feeling useless, watching her husband waste away without being able to do anything to help, now had something concrete in front of her. Someone who needed help. someone she might be able to save. When the first light of morning began to filter through the window cracks, Patricia was still awake. She had made a decision. No matter how complicated or risky it was, she wasn't just going to hand Emma over to whoever was looking for her, not without first making sure the child would be safe. She went up the stairs again. Emma was still asleep, wrapped in the blanket, her face finally relaxed. Patricia wondered when was the last time the girl had slept without fear. She went back down quietly and began planning the next steps. First, she needed to know more about Emma. Who was looking for her, where she had run from, but she needed to do it discreetly, without raising suspicions. The last thing she wanted was for someone to show up at the house asking questions. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Around 8 in the morning, Patricia heard light footsteps on the stairs. Emma appeared at the kitchen door, still wrapped in the blanket, her hair even messier. She looked like a child who had just woken from a nightmare, still unsure of where she was. "Good morning," Patricia said with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" Emma shrugged, her eyes scanning the kitchen as if looking for escape routes. Patricia pretended not to notice. "I'm making coffee. Do you like coffee with milk?" The girl nodded slowly. Patricia prepared a generous cup, adding plenty of sugar. Emma accepted it with both hands, taking small sips while watching Patricia cautiously. "Emma," Patricia began carefully, sitting at the table, "I want to help you, really. But I need to understand what's going on. Can you tell me where you ran away from?" The girl lowered the cup, her fingers gripping the china tightly. "From the Thompsons' house." "And who are the Thompsons?" "My foster parents." Emma's voice trembled on the last word. Patricia felt a tightening in her chest. A foster family. That complicated everything. Legally, those people had rights over the child. "Why did you run away?" Emma didn't answer immediately. Her eyes filled with tears that she tried to hold back by blinking quickly. They don't like me," she managed to say finally. "I do everything wrong. Mrs. Thompson gets angry, and Mr. Thompson, he—" The girl stopped, biting her lower lip hard. Patricia didn't need to hear the rest. The bruise on her arm, the fear in her eyes, the way Emma flinched when someone approached too quickly. Everything told the story that words couldn't. "How long have you lived with them?" "I think about 6 months. Before that, I was in the shelter." "And your real parents?" Emma shook her head. "I don't know them. Aunt Margaret from the shelter said my mother left me there when I was a baby." Patricia felt something break inside her. A child who had never known her mother, spent her life in a shelter, and then was placed with a family that mistreated her. What chance had Emma had in life? "And how did you get here?" she asked softly. "I ran away about 3 weeks ago," Emma explained, her voice growing stronger as she told the story. "I took a bus to Pine Ridge. I had a coin I found on the ground. The driver let me on because it was raining really hard. I kept walking around town, sleeping wherever I could. Then I saw this house. Everyone's afraid of it, so I thought nobody would come in here looking for me." "And how have you been eating?" Emma looked away, embarrassed. "Sometimes there's food in the market trash. And there were some rotten fruits in the backyard here." Patricia closed her eyes for a moment, trying to control the wave of emotion that threatened to overflow. A 6-year-old child, living on food scraps, hidden in an old house, alone and scared, and she had endured 3 weeks like this. "You're very brave, Emma," she said, opening her eyes, "but you can't keep living in hiding. Do you understand? You need real help." "No." Emma stood up abruptly, the chair creaking. "You're going to send me back to them. I knew I couldn't trust you." "Emma, wait!" But the girl was already running toward the stairs. Patricia followed her, climbing the steps as fast as her legs would allow. She found Emma back behind the bookcase, curled up in the same spot where she had discovered her the night before. "Emma, listen to me." Patricia knelt near the crack. "I didn't say I'm going to send you back to the Thompsons. I said you need help, and I want to be that help. But I need to do this the right way, understand? I need to find out exactly what's happening." "You don't believe me," Emma sobbed. I do believe you. Patricia reached her hand through the crack, stopping a few inches from the girl. I believe every word. But you're a child, and I'm a stranger. If I just hide you here, when they find out, they'll take you away anyway, and then I won't be able to protect you anymore. But if I do things properly, maybe I can prove that the Thompsons shouldn't keep you. Emma raised her tear-stained face. How? I don't know yet, Patricia admitted. But I'll find out. Do you trust me enough to give me a chance? The girl remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched Patricia's fingers. It was a small gesture, but full of meaning. I'll trust, she whispered. But if they come to get me, I'll run away again. I won't go back to that house ever again. Patricia gently squeezed the small hand. Deal. And I promise I'll do everything I can to make sure you don't have to go back. For the rest of the morning, Patricia tried to make Emma feel more comfortable. She prepared a warm bath in a large basin she found in the storage room, since the house shower still wasn't working properly. Emma resisted at first, but eventually gave in when Patricia promised to turn her back and not look. When the girl came out of the water, Patricia saw the marks on her body more clearly. Besides the bruise on her arm, there were scratches on her back, an old burn on her calf, and what looked like a recent scar on her shoulder. Each mark was silent evidence of what Emma had suffered. Patricia didn't have clothes that would fit the girl, but she improvised with one of her old t-shirts, tying a knot at the waist so it wouldn't be too big. Emma seemed to like it, twirling to make the shirt spin. Can I keep it? She asked timidly. It's yours, Patricia smiled. But we'll need to buy clothes that fit you, and shoes too. I don't have any money. I know, but I still have a little saved up. It's enough for what we need. In truth, Patricia's money was running out fast. She had spent almost everything on the truck rental to bring her few things there and on basic supplies to make the house minimally livable. But clothes for Emma were essential. She couldn't let the girl wear rags. In the afternoon, while Emma cautiously explored the rooms of the house, Patricia decided to walk into town. She needed to start discreetly investigating the Thompsons and missing children. Pine Ridge was small, with just over 5,000 residents. News traveled fast in places like that. I'm going out for a bit, she told Emma. You stay here and don't open the door for anyone, okay? If someone comes, you hide and stay very quiet. Emma nodded, but Patricia could see the fear returning to her eyes. I'll be back soon, she promised, and I'll bring some food. Is there anything you especially like? Emma's face brightened a little. Chocolate cake. Then I'll see if I can find a piece of chocolate cake for you. The walk to town took about 20 minutes. The dirt road was steep and full of rocks, but Patricia didn't mind. The exercise helped clear her mind. The day was beautiful, with the blue sky typical of winter in Colorado. From up on the hill, she could see the whole expanse of Pine Ridge, the little houses spreading out along the valley. When she reached the main street, Patricia felt the curious stares of the residents. In small towns, outsiders always attracted attention, and she was sure everyone already knew someone had moved into the old house on the hill. She went into the small market, the only one in town. The owner, a plump woman in her 60s, greeted her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Good afternoon. You're the new resident in Joseph's house, right? Patricia nodded, picking up a small basket. That's right. I'm Patricia. Ah, yes, I'm Mrs. Gladys. Everyone here heard about the inheritance. Joseph was a peculiar man. The woman chose her words carefully. He lived alone there for years. Few had the courage to visit him. Why? Patricia asked, pretending disinterest as she picked out products from the shelves. Oh, that house has had a bad reputation for decades. They say the couple who lived there before Joseph fought a lot. Terrible screams you could hear from town. One day the woman just disappeared, never seen again. The husband said she had run off with someone else, but no one really believed it. Patricia felt a shiver. So that was the story of the house. No wonder everyone avoided the place. And what happened to the husband? He sold the house and left. Years later, Joseph bought the place for a song. I think he was the only one willing to live there. And did Mr. Joseph have any family? Not that we knew of. He lived and died alone. It was a surprise when the lawyer showed up looking for heirs. Patricia continued shopping, picking up the basics, rice, beans, bread, milk, eggs, some fruit. When she passed the sweet section, she remembered her promise. There were slices of chocolate cake in plastic packaging. She took one and put it in the basket. "Do you have children?" Mrs. Gladys asked while scanning the groceries. "No," Patricia replied, her heart tightening. "My husband and I never could." It was true. Years of trying, doctor visits, tests. The news that Richard couldn't have children had been devastating for both of them. They had thought about adoption, but never took the next step. There was always a reason to postpone, and then Richard got sick, and all other worries took a back seat. "Oh, what a pity," Mrs. Gladys said with genuine sympathy. "So, you're living alone in that big house?" "For now, yes. Aren't you afraid? A woman alone in such an isolated place." "I don't have much choice," Patricia smiled without joy. "It's what I have at the moment." While Mrs. Gladys bagged the groceries, Patricia decided to risk a question. "Mrs. Gladys, do you know if any child has gone missing recently in the area?" The woman looked up, curious. "A missing child? Why do you ask?" "Oh, just curious. I overheard someone in town talking, but I didn't quite catch the conversation." Mrs. Gladys thought for a moment. "Well, there was that girl who ran away from her adoptive family in the neighboring town. The Thompsons, if I'm not mistaken. They've been looking for her for a few weeks. They have posters up all over, but I don't think it's a real disappearance, you know. The girl ran away because she didn't fit in. Adopted children can be difficult sometimes." Patricia felt her blood run cold. She tried to keep her expression neutral. "Oh, yes. What a complicated situation." "That's right. The Thompsons are good people, but the girl must have had issues. You know how it is. Children from shelters bring trauma. Adoption doesn't always work out." Patricia wanted to scream that Emma didn't have issues, that it was the Thompsons who mistreated the child, but she forced herself to stay silent. She needed more information before making any move. "How much is it?" she asked, changing the subject. After paying for the groceries, Patricia left the market with more questions than answers. So the Thompsons really were looking for Emma. They had even put up posters. That meant she couldn't keep the girl hidden for long. Sooner or later, someone would see something, or Emma would make a mistake and be discovered. She was so lost in thought that she almost collided with a man coming the opposite way. "Sorry," she murmured. "No problem." The man smiled. He was young, maybe around 30, with a friendly expression. "You're new here, right?" "Yes. I moved into the house on the hill." "Really?" The man seemed surprised. "Oh, wow, you're brave. That place has a reputation for being haunted." "I don't believe in ghosts," Patricia replied. "Me neither," he laughed. "I'm Michael. I work at the City Hall. If you need anything, you can come to us." "Thank you. I'm Patricia." Michael looked at the bag she was carrying. "Need a ride home? My car is right there." Patricia hesitated. Accepting a ride would mean Michael would know exactly where she lived and could show up unannounced. On the other hand, the walk back would be harder with the wait. "No, thank you. The walk is good for me." "Are you sure?" "The climb is tough." "Yes, I am. But I appreciate the offer." Michael shrugged. "Suit yourself. Anything you need, we're here to help." Patricia said goodbye and started the walk back, her muscles already complaining about the effort. When she got home, Emma was exactly where she had left her, curled up in a living room chair, her eyes fixed on the door. "You came back," the girl said with obvious relief. "I promised I would." Patricia put the bags on the table. "And I brought chocolate cake." Emma's eyes lit up. She took the slice of cake with reverence and ate it slowly, savoring every bite. Patricia watched with a sad smile. Simple things like a piece of cake shouldn't be so special for a child. "Emma," she began carefully, "today in town, I heard that the Thompsons are looking for you. They put up posters everywhere." The cake stopped halfway to Emma's mouth. "They're going to find me," she whispered, fear returning to her eyes. "Not if I can help it." Patricia knelt in front of the girl. "But I need to ask you some questions, hard ones. Can you answer them?" Emma nodded slowly. "When the Thompsons hurt you, did anyone see? Neighbors, relatives, anyone from the shelter who came to visit?" "I think the neighbors knew," Emma said quietly. Sometimes I heard them talking about the screams, but nobody did anything. And the marks on your body? Did you show anyone? I showed the social worker once. She said they were from a clumsy child that I must have fallen or bumped into something. Said I was lucky to be in a family that wanted me. Patricia felt anger growing in her chest. How could a professional have been so negligent? But she knew cases like this happened. Vulnerable children falling through the cracks of the system, ignored by those who should protect them. Emma, do you remember that social worker's name? Mrs. Diane something. She was very angry. And did you have other social workers before her? Emma shook her head. Just her. She was the one who placed me with the Thompsons. Patricia absorbed the information. So this Diane had been responsible for placing Emma in an abusive family and then ignored the signs of mistreatment. Either she was incompetent or deliberately turning a blind eye. Neither option was good. One more question, Patricia said. Do you know the Thompsons' full names and where their house is? Robert and Karen Thompson. The house is in St. Andrew on Flower Street, number 35. St. Andrew was the neighboring town, about 15 kilometers away. Patricia made a mental note. She would need to visit the place at some point, see with her own eyes where Emma had lived. You did very well telling me all this, she praised. Now I need to think about how we're going to handle the situation. You're not going to turn me in? Emma asked, her voice trembling. I'm not, Patricia promised, but I also can't just hide you here forever. We need a better plan. During the following days, Patricia established a routine. Every morning she went down to the city to buy what was necessary and try to gather more information. She had to do it gradually without raising suspicions. The story she told was always the same. She was settling in, trying to make the house livable, thinking about what to do next. Emma stayed hidden all day. Patricia taught the girl to recognize the sound of her footsteps so she wouldn't get scared every time she heard a noise. She also showed her all the hiding spots in the house in case someone showed up unexpectedly. The whole time, Patricia tried to make Emma feel safe, but she knew it was a fragile safety that could shatter at any moment. At night, when she was sure no one would see them, she let Emma go out to the backyard. The girl ran through the tall grass, breathing in the fresh air deeply, and Patricia saw the child she must have been before all the suffering. In those moments, Emma even smiled. It was on one of those nights that the dog appeared, a white mixed breed of medium size, with one floppy ear and gentle eyes. It must have been the same one Patricia had seen in the first few days. The animal approached slowly, its tail wagging cautiously. Emma was delighted. Can we keep him? She begged. He probably has an owner, Patricia said, but without much conviction. Shh. The dog was dirty and thin, clearly not well cared for. I don't think so. He looks abandoned. The dog came closer and licked Emma's hand. The girl laughed, the sound so rare it made Patricia's heart ache. All right, she gave in. We can keep him, but you'll have to help take care of him. I will, I promise. Emma hugged the dog, who accepted the attention happily. Can I give him a name? Of course. So his name will be Snowball, because he's white as a cloud. And so the house on the hill gained another inhabitant. Snowball adapted quickly, sleeping at the foot of Emma's bed and following the girl everywhere. Patricia was grateful for the companionship the animal provided. At least, Emma wasn't completely alone when she needed to go out. In the second week since finding Emma, Patricia finally managed to learn more about the Thompsons. Apparently, Robert worked at a construction materials warehouse and Karen was a homemaker. They had 3 biological children, all between 8 and 12 years old. Emma's adoption had happened 6 months ago, as the girl had said. Patricia also discovered that this Diane was known for being strict and unempathetic. Several people in town commented that she shouldn't be working with children, but kept her job because she was a cousin of someone important. The kind of thing Patricia hated, but knew was common in small towns. She was returning from another visit to town when she saw a car parked in front of her house. Her heart raced. She quickened her pace, praying that Emma had hidden. As she approached, she saw a middle-aged woman getting out of the car, dressed too formally for a casual visit. "Good afternoon," the woman said, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be Patricia Miller." "That's me," Patricia replied cautiously. "I'm Diane Wallace, the social worker for this region. I received information that a new resident had settled here. As is standard procedure, I came to make an introductory visit." Patricia felt her blood run cold. This was the social worker who had placed Emma with the Thompsons, the same one who had ignored the signs of abuse, and now she was there, at her door. "I didn't know address changes required a social worker visit," Patricia said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Normally they don't," Diane smiled. "But when someone moves to an isolated place after a recent bereavement, we like to check if everything is all right. It's a matter of caring for the community's mental health." "I'm fine, thank you." "May I come in? I'd like to see the condition of the house. Since you're living alone, I want to ensure the place is safe." Patricia hesitated. She couldn't refuse without raising even more suspicion. But what if Diane saw something that gave away Emma's presence? "Of course," she said finally. "But I warn you, I'm still unpacking. The house had been abandoned for years. They entered together." Patricia tried not to look at the stairs, praying that Emma was well hidden and that Snowball wouldn't decide to bark. Diane walked through the ground floor rooms with a critical eye, making notes on a clipboard. "The house structure seems solid," she commented, "but there's a lot of work to be done." "I know, I'm renovating little by little." "Do you have the resources for that?" "I have some money saved." It was a lie, but Patricia wasn't going to admit she was almost broke. Diane made a few more notes. "May I see the upstairs?" Patricia's heart beat faster. "Of course, but some doors are locked. I haven't gotten keys for all the rooms yet." They went up the stairs. Patricia tried to make noise with her footsteps, hoping Emma would notice and stay absolutely quiet. Diane opened the first door, saw the empty room, and nodded. The second door was indeed locked. "And this one?" She pointed to the third door, precisely the room where Emma had hidden on the first night. "This one's open, but it only has old furniture and boxes." Diane pushed the door and entered. Patricia followed, her nerves on edge. Where would Emma be hiding? Behind the bookcase again. Diane walked around the room, looking around. She stopped near the bookcase and Patricia almost had a heart attack, but then the woman just made another note and left. "Well," she said when they returned to the ground floor, "it seems you're managing well. But I want to leave my card. If you need anything or if you start feeling overwhelmed by loneliness, you can call me." "Thank you." Patricia accepted the card. "And one more thing." Diane stopped at the door, turning around. "Have you been around town recently?" "Yes, I go every day to buy groceries." "Then you must have seen the posters of the missing girl, Emma Thompson." Patricia made sure to put on a thoughtful expression. "Oh, yes, I heard some comments at the market. If by any chance you see anything, or if the girl shows up around here, it's important that you let me know immediately. She ran away from her adoptive family and is in a risky situation." "Is she at risk with her family?" Patricia asked, feigning innocence. "No, at risk for being alone on the street. The family is excellent. The Thompsons are good people who are desperate to find the girl." Patricia bit her tongue to avoid saying what she really thought. "Of course, if I see anything, I'll let you know." "Great. Well, I'll let you get back to your chores. Anything. We're available." Diane finally left. Patricia waited until the car disappeared around the bend in the road before running up the stairs. "Emma! Emma, she's gone. You can come out." Silence. Patricia's heart started racing again. "Emma!" Then she heard a scratching sound coming from under the old bed frame. Emma crawled out from a space Patricia didn't even know existed, covered in dust with Snowball by her side. The dog had stayed quiet the whole time, not making a sound. "Good boy," Patricia said, petting Snowball. "Very good indeed." Emma was trembling from head to toe. "It was her," she whispered. "It was Mrs. Diane. I recognized the voice." "I know." Patricia hugged her. "But you hid very well. She didn't suspect a thing." "But she'll be back. What if she finds out I'm here?" "She won't find out. We'll be more careful. You only come out of your hiding spot when I'm absolutely sure there's no one near the house." That night, Patricia could hardly sleep. Diane's visit had left her extremely nervous. Had the woman just come for a routine visit, or did she suspect something? And how did she find out so quickly that Patricia had moved into the house? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The weeks passed in constant tension. Patricia developed a system of signals with Emma. A specific whistle meant it was safe to come out of hiding. 3 knocks on the wall meant danger. Snowball also learned to stay quiet when someone approached, as if understanding the gravity of the situation. Patricia got a temporary job sewing for some ladies in town. It didn't pay much, but it helped buy food and clothes for Emma. The girl was growing, putting on a little weight, her cheeks not so hollow anymore. But the fear remained in her eyes, always present. It was on a Saturday morning, almost a month after finding Emma, that Patricia saw the posters for the first time. They were scattered all over town, pinned to poles, store windows, on the bulletin board in the square. The photo showed Emma smiling, clearly an old picture. Missing screamed in red letters. Emma Thompson, 6 years old. Reward for information. Patricia tore down one of the posters and folded it, putting it in her pocket. Should she show Emma? No, she decided. The girl was scared enough already. Patricia! She turned and saw Michael, the man from the city hall, waving. She forced a smile. Hi, Michael. See the posters? He pointed. Things are getting serious. The Thompsons even offered a reward now. It's very sad, Patricia commented. A missing child. Yeah. I wonder where she could be. Such a small girl, all alone. I hope they find her soon. I hope so, Patricia echoed, guilt tightening in her chest. She knew she was doing the right thing by protecting Emma. But what if she was wrong? What if the Thompsons were actually good people and Emma had exaggerated? What if she was putting the child in more danger by keeping her hidden? These thoughts tormented her as she returned home. She found Emma playing with Snowball in the backyard, enjoying the few moments of freedom she had. The girl ran and laughed, and Patricia realized she hadn't heard Emma truly laugh until a few weeks ago. Emma, she called, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. The girl stopped playing, her smile fading. What is it? Are you absolutely sure about what you told me about the Thompsons? About how they treated you? Emma turned pale. You don't believe me. That's not it, Patricia approached. I believe you, but I need to be sure you understand, because what we're doing is very serious. If I'm wrong... I didn't lie, Emma interrupted, her eyes filled with tears. I would never lie about that. Then show me. What? The scars. The marks. Show me everything, and tell me exactly how each one happened. It was cruel to do this, Patricia knew, but she needed to be absolutely sure before continuing. Emma hesitated, then lifted her shirt. Patricia saw the burn on her calf. It was with the iron, Emma said in a trembling voice. Mrs. Karen was ironing clothes, and I dropped a pile of folded laundry. She got so angry that she pressed the iron against my leg. She said I needed to learn to be less clumsy. Patricia felt nauseous. And this one? She pointed to the scar on her shoulder. I got hurt on broken glass. Mr. Robert locked me in the back room for 2 nights because I ate a piece of cake that was for his son. I tried to get out and cut myself on the broken window glass. And the bruises. They hit me, not always, but when they got angry. Mrs. Karen would pull my hair, Mr. Robert would push me, and their children... Emma's voice faltered. Their children hit me too. They said it was just playing, but it hurt a lot. Patricia hugged her tightly, feeling the girl tremble against her body. I will never doubt you again, she promised. Never again. That night, Patricia made a decision. She couldn't keep just hiding Emma. She needed help, someone who could really do something for the girl. But who? Diane was clearly on the Thompsons' side. The police would probably just return Emma to them. She needed another alternative. It was then that she remembered conversations at the market. Mrs. Gladys had mentioned a lawyer in town, Dr. Jennifer, who did volunteer work with family cases. Maybe she could help. The next morning, Patricia left Emma well hidden and went to the lawyer's office. It was a small place, above the pharmacy, with a simple sign on the door. Patricia took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," a voice called from inside. The lawyer was a woman about 40 years old, with short hair and an intelligent expression. She was sitting behind a desk full of papers, reading glasses hanging around her neck. "Good morning, can I help you? Dr. Jennifer? My name is Patricia Miller. I need legal advice." "Have a seat," Jennifer indicated a chair. "What do you need advice about?" Patricia hesitated. How to tell this without incriminating herself? But she had no alternative. She needed to trust someone. "Doctor, if a person found a child in a risky situation, a child who ran away from an abusive family, what would be the right thing to do?" Jennifer tilted her head, studying Patricia carefully. "That's a very specific question. By any chance, is that person you?" "It's hypothetical." "Of course it is," Jennifer said, but her tone indicated she didn't believe it. "Well, legally, the person should report the situation to the proper authorities. Hiding a child is a crime. And if this child insisted that the authorities didn't believe her before, that they put her in a dangerous situation, then the situation would be more complicated. The person would need solid evidence of abuse. Without it, it would just be the child's word against the responsible adults." "And if there were physical evidence?" Jennifer leaned forward, picking up her glasses from the desk and putting them on. "Patricia, let's stop with the hypotheticals. You found the Thompson girl, didn't you?" Patricia froze, her heart racing. "I didn't say—" "You don't need to. A new woman in town, asking discreet questions about missing children, coming here for advice about child abuse. I'm not stupid. Are you going to report me?" "It depends." Jennifer crossed her arms. "Tell me the truth. All of it." Patricia looked into the lawyer's eyes and saw something that made her decide to trust. She told everything, from the first night she heard the crying to Diane's visit, including the marks on Emma's body and the stories of abuse. Jennifer listened to everything in silence, making occasional notes. "You're right to be worried," she said finally. "The situation is serious both for the girl and for you. If they find out you're hiding Emma, you could be arrested for kidnapping." "But I didn't kidnap her. Emma came to my house seeking shelter." "I know. But legally, you're preventing a child under legal custody from returning to her guardians, no matter the reason. So what do I do? Hand her back to the Thompsons?" "No," Jennifer said firmly. "If half of what you told me is true, that child cannot go back to that house. But we need to do things the right way." "How?" "First, I need to document the evidence. You said Emma has marks of abuse. I need to see them personally and photograph them. I also need her version of events, recorded if possible. Second, I need to investigate the Thompsons. See if there are other reports of abuse. Talk to neighbors, teachers, anyone who might have seen something. And then we go to family court with all this and request Emma's removal from the Thompsons' custody. It won't be easy. Diane will resist and the Thompsons will too. But if we can prove there was negligence from both the family and the social worker, we have a chance. And meanwhile, where does Emma stay? With you, but not hidden. You'll need to take temporary custody of her." "How?" "I don't have money. I don't have the means. You have a roof and the willingness to protect this child. That's more than many people have to offer. I'll help with the legal part. Pro bono," Jennifer added when she saw Patricia's worried expression. "I don't charge for children's cases." Patricia felt her eyes burning. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I've seen too many children fall through the cracks of the system, and because, unlike Diane, I actually care about their well-being," Jennifer smiled. "Now, when can we go to your house to talk to Emma?" 3 days later, Jennifer had everything documented. The photos of the marks, Emma's recorded testimony, even a letter from the girl describing her life with the Thompsons. It was heavy material, difficult to see and hear, but it was also solid evidence. Jennifer had also investigated the Thompsons. She discreetly spoke with neighbors who confirmed the shouting coming from the house, with Emma's teacher who had noticed changes in the girl's behavior after the adoption, and even with a former employee from the warehouse where Robert worked, who said the man had a reputation for having an explosive temper. "It's enough," Jennifer said. "I'll file the request tomorrow." "And if they deny it?" "They won't deny it. Not with all this. They might take time to make a decision, but they won't simply return Emma to the Thompsons while they investigate." "And Diane?" "Diane will have to answer for negligence. I can guarantee she won't like this at all." The next morning, Jennifer went to file the documents. Patricia stayed home with Emma, trying to keep the girl calm, but she herself was nervous, unable to stay still. What if something went wrong? What if the Thompsons somehow managed to prove they were innocent? In the afternoon, when the sun was already low, Jennifer returned. But she wasn't alone. An official car was behind hers. Patricia felt panic rising. "Emma, hide!" she whispered. But Jennifer waved from the window, signaling that everything was okay. Patricia cautiously opened the door. With the lawyer was a woman around 50 years old, dressed formally. "Patricia, this is Dr. Elizabeth Wilson from the juvenile court. She came to meet Emma." "It's not the Karen Thompson," Jennifer quickly added, seeing the look of panic. "It's a completely different person." Dr. Elizabeth had a kind smile. "I just came to talk with the girl. I understand she must be scared, but I need to see her in person to assess the situation." Patricia led the two to the room where Emma was hiding behind the bookshelf, with Snowball by her side. The girl looked at the strangers with terror. "Emma," Jennifer said softly. "This is Dr. Elizabeth. She came to help you." "Hello, Emma." The doctor crouched down to be at the girl's level. "Don't be afraid. I know you've been through very difficult things, but I'm here to make sure you stay safe." "Are you going to take me back to the Thompsons?" Emma asked with a trembling voice. "No, you won't go back there. You can rest easy." "Promise?" "I promise. In fact, the Thompsons will have to answer some very serious questions about how they treated you." Emma started to cry, but this time they were tears of relief. Dr. Elizabeth spent the next hour talking with her, asking gentle questions, listening carefully to each answer. When she finished, she had tears in her own eyes. "This girl has suffered a lot," she said to Patricia when they left the room. "A great deal, but you did the right thing by protecting her. So Emma can stay with me. Officially, I will grant you temporary custody while we fully investigate the case. There will be hearings, interviews, more paperwork. But yes, Emma can stay with you." Patricia could hardly believe it. Thank you so much. Thank Jennifer. She's the one who built a solid case. And thank yourself for having the courage to do what was right." After the two left, Patricia told Emma what was going to happen. The girl hugged her tightly. "Can I really stay here forever?" "For now, yes," Patricia said, not wanting to make promises she might not be able to keep. "We'll see what happens in the coming months. I want to stay here, with you and with Snowball. This house isn't scary like everyone says. It's the only place I've felt at home." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The following weeks were an emotional roller coaster. Jennifer was right about the resistance. Diane showed up at the house furious, accusing Patricia of interfering in matters that weren't her business. Robert and Karen Thompson tried to speak with Emma, but Dr. Elizabeth Wilson denied it, saying the child had the right not to see her former guardians if she didn't want to. The Thompsons then changed tactics. They began spreading stories around town, saying Emma was a problem child, that she lied about the abuse, that Patricia had manipulated the girl. Some people believed it. Patricia started getting hostile looks when she went into town. "Don't pay attention to them," Jennifer advised. "People believe what they want to believe. What matters is what the justice system will decide." The first hearing was scheduled for 2 months after Emma was found. Patricia was nervous, but Jennifer prepared her well. They reviewed the facts several times, practiced possible questions. Emma had also been prepared, though the idea of having to speak in front of strangers terrified her. "You just need to tell the truth," Patricia said, holding the girl's hands, "and I'll be there the whole time." "What if they don't believe me?" "They will, because we have proof, and because Dr. Elizabeth is on our side." The day of the hearing dawned cold and grey. Patricia dressed Emma in the best clothes she could buy, brushed the girl's hair until it shone. They walked down the hill together, Snowball watching them sadly from afar. The courthouse was an old building in the center of St. Andrew. When they entered, Patricia saw Robert and Karen Thompson for the first time. He was a burly man, about 40 years old, with a stern expression. She was thin, nervous, avoiding looking in Emma's direction. Next to them was Diane with an unfriendly face. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Jennifer presented all the evidence meticulously, the photos, the testimonies, the neighbors' accounts. Emma had to speak, telling her story in a trembling but firm voice. Patricia saw several people in the room discreetly wiping away tears. Robert Thompson denied everything vehemently. He said Emma was a difficult child, that she hurt herself on purpose to get attention, that she made up stories. Karen Thompson timidly agreed with everything her husband said, but Patricia noticed she never looked directly at Emma. Diane also defended herself, saying she had visited the Thompson home several times and never saw anything wrong. But Jennifer had evidence showing that the visits were always scheduled in advance, giving the Thompsons time to hide any signs of abuse. In the end, the judge, a man of about 60 with a severe expression, announced that he needed time to analyze everything. The final decision would be given in 2 weeks. They were 2 weeks of agony. Patricia barely slept, getting up several times a night to check if Emma was okay. The girl was also having nightmares, waking up screaming that the Thompsons had come to get her. "They won't take you," Patricia repeated every night, hugging the child. "I won't let them." But she was afraid she was making a promise she couldn't keep. What if the judge decided the Thompsons were innocent? What if Emma was sent back? Finally, the day of the decision arrived. They returned to the courthouse, the same tense atmosphere, the same people, the same cold room. The judge entered and everyone stood up. He sat down, picked up the papers in front of him, and began to speak. "This is a deeply disturbing case," he began. "A small child was placed in a situation of serious danger, and the people who should have protected her failed miserably in their responsibilities." Patricia's heart beat faster. "After analyzing all the evidence, all the testimonies, all the proof presented, I've reached the conclusion that Emma Thompson was indeed a victim of physical and emotional abuse during the time she was in the custody of Robert and Karen Thompson." Karen Thompson let out a moan. Robert turned red with anger. "That's a lie," he shouted, but was silenced by the judge. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "it is evident that the responsible social worker, Diane Wallace, was negligent in her duties, ignoring clear signs of abuse and failing to protect a vulnerable child." Diane turned pale. "Therefore, I rule as follows. Custody of Emma Thompson is immediately removed from Robert and Karen Thompson. A criminal process will be opened investigating the abuses. Diane Wallace will be suspended from her duties while an administrative investigation is conducted, and Emma will remain in the temporary custody of Patricia Miller until a permanent solution is found." Patricia could hardly believe it. They had won. Emma was saved. The girl hugged her so tightly she almost knocked her over. "I'm not going back," she cried. "I'm not going back." "No, she won't," Patricia replied, also crying. "Never again." Robert Thompson still tried to protest, but was escorted out of the courtroom. Karen Thompson broke down crying, and Patricia almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Diane left with her head down, avoiding all gazes. Later, on the street, Jennifer hugged them both. "You did it. Congratulations." "We wouldn't have managed without you," Patricia said. "There's still a long road ahead," Jennifer warned. "The temporary custody will last about 6 months while they conduct evaluations. They'll want to make sure you're capable of permanently caring for Emma, but at least now she's safe." They returned home to the hill, where Snowball was eagerly waiting for them. Emma told the dog everything that had happened, while Snowball wagged his tail, as if he understood every word. That night, for the first time in months, Patricia slept deeply, without nightmares, without suffocating worries. Emma was safe. The Thompsons couldn't hurt her anymore. That was all that mattered. But the story was far from over. In the following months, Patricia had to prove that she could truly be permanently responsible for Emma. Social workers other than Diane came to make visits, checking the conditions of the house, talking with Emma, writing reports. Patricia also had to find a more stable job. She got a position at a clothing factory in the neighboring town, working as a seamstress. It didn't pay much, but it was enough to support her and Emma. The house on the hill was gradually renovated, with the help of some neighbors who, after learning the full story, changed their opinion about Patricia. Emma started attending school in Pine Ridge. At first, it was difficult. Some children avoided her because of the rumors, and Emma had trouble trusting adults. But little by little, with patience and support, she adapted. She made friends, started smiling more, and even took part in a school play. Michael, the young man from the city hall, became a close friend. He helped Patricia with the house repairs, played with Emma, and took Snowball for walks. Patricia realized she was developing feelings for him, but she still felt guilty, as if she were betraying Richard's memory. "Your husband wouldn't want you to be alone forever," Jennifer said when Patricia confessed her doubts. "He would want you to be happy." Maybe she was right, but Patricia decided to take it slow, to let things happen naturally. 6 months after the hearing, there was a new meeting at the courthouse. This time it wasn't tense. The judge reviewed all the reports from the visits, spoke briefly with Emma, and then announced his decision. "It is evident that Patricia Miller has provided Emma with a loving and stable home. The girl is developing well both emotionally and academically. Therefore, I grant Patricia permanent custody of Emma Thompson, now Emma Miller, if she so wishes." Emma looked at Patricia with shining eyes. "Can I have your last name?" "Of course you can," Patricia smiled through her tears. "If you want to." "I do. I want to be Emma Miller." And so it was made official. Emma Miller, daughter of Patricia Miller, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by everything that truly matters. Life went on. Emma grew up, becoming a cheerful girl, though she still carried emotional scars that Patricia knew would take years to fully heal. But she was working on it, with the help of a child psychologist that Jennifer had recommended. Robert Thompson was convicted of child abuse and spent 2 years in prison. Karen Thompson was considered an accomplice, but received an alternative sentence due to mitigating circumstances. Diane lost her job and moved away from the area. Patricia didn't take pleasure in their suffering, but she felt justice had been served. 1 year after the adoption was finalized, something unexpected happened. An elderly lady appeared at the door of the house on the hill, leaning on a cane, with a determined expression. "Can I help you?" Patricia asked. "My name is Margaret Evans," the lady said. "I worked at the shelter where Emma stayed as a baby. I heard she's living here." Patricia's heart tightened. What did this woman want? "She is," she replied cautiously. "Why?" "Because I have information you deserve to know." Patricia invited her inside. Emma was at school, so they would have privacy. They sat in the kitchen, and Margaret began her story. When Emma was left at the shelter, she was only a few days old. She came with a letter from her mother saying she couldn't raise her. I kept that letter for years, thinking it might be important one day. "And why are you telling me this now?" "Because I discovered something recently. Emma's mother didn't abandon her because she didn't want her. It was out of fear." "Fear of what?" "Of the child's father. He was a violent man. Emma's mother ran away from him when she was pregnant, but he found her. She left the baby at the shelter to protect her. But afterward, she never managed to come back for Emma. I don't know if it was out of fear, or because she couldn't, or maybe..." "Maybe what?" Margaret hesitated. "I did some investigating recently. I found out that Emma's mother, Olivia Evans, disappeared 6 years ago. She was never seen again. The family filed a missing persons report, but the case was never solved." Patricia felt a chill. "You think she's dead?" "I don't know. I only know she loved her daughter. The letter made that very clear, and that she did what she thought was best, even though it was the hardest thing in the world. Why are you telling me all this?" "Because Emma deserves to know the truth, that she wasn't abandoned because she wasn't wanted, and because..." Margaret pulled a yellowed envelope from her bag. "This is from her mother. I think she should have it." It was the original letter. Patricia opened it carefully, her eyes scanning the words written in a shaky handwriting. "My little Emma, you are the love of my life. I'm leaving you here because it's the only way to keep you safe. One day, when all this is over, I'll come back for you. I promise. If I don't return, know it wasn't by choice. Know that you were wanted, loved, and that it broke my heart to have to leave you. Be strong, my daughter. Be happy and forgive me." Patricia couldn't hold back her tears. "She'll want to know about her mother," she said finally. "I know. That's why I also brought some photos." Margaret took out another envelope. "And information about the Evans family. Emma's grandmother, Eleanor Evans, is still alive. She lives in Denver." "The grandmother? Why did she never look for Emma?" "She didn't know about a granddaughter. Olivia hid the pregnancy from her family out of fear of what they would do. I only found the connection because I looked into the records after hearing about Emma's case in court." Patricia absorbed all that information. Emma had a grandmother, a biological family that didn't know she existed. "What do you think I should do?" "That's your and Emma's decision, but I thought you deserved to know the truth." When Emma returned from school, Patricia sat her down and told her everything. The girl listened in silence, her eyes fixed on her mother's letter. "She didn't abandon me," she whispered finally. "She was protecting me." "She was," Patricia confirmed. "And I have a grandmother." "You do, and if you want, we can try to contact her." Emma thought for a long moment. "I want to, but you'll still be my mom, right?" "Always," Patricia promised. "Nothing will change that." The contact with Eleanor Evans was emotional. The 70-year-old woman couldn't believe she had a granddaughter. She cried for hours upon learning about Olivia, about Emma, about everything that had happened. They arranged a meeting in Denver for the following month. When the day came, Patricia, Emma, and Michael, who had become part of the family, made the 3-hour trip to the capital. Eleanor lived in a modest apartment in the Forest Hills neighborhood. When she opened the door and saw Emma, she broke down in tears. "You look just like your mother," she said between sobs. "Just like her." The day was filled with stories, old photos, and tales of Olivia as a child. Eleanor explained how her daughter had become distant in the years before she disappeared, how she had found a boyfriend the family never approved of, how everything had gone wrong. "I didn't know," Eleanor kept repeating. "If I had known she was pregnant, that she was in danger, I would have done something." "It wasn't your fault," Patricia said gently. "I failed Olivia, but I won't fail Emma." Eleanor looked at her granddaughter. "If you'll allow me, I want to be part of her life." Emma looked at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. "I'd like that," the girl said. "But Patricia is my mom now." "I know." Eleanor smiled through her tears. "And I'm very grateful to her for taking care of you when I couldn't. But I'd love to be your grandmother if you'll let me." And so, Emma's family grew. Eleanor began visiting them regularly in Pine Ridge. She brought gifts, told stories, taught Emma how to cook Olivia's favorite recipes. Patricia was happy to see the girl connecting with her roots, having a family that extended beyond her. But there were difficult moments too. Emma sometimes had breakdowns, remembering the months with the Thompsons, wondering what had happened to her biological mother. The psychologist said it was normal, part of the healing process. Patricia learned to recognize the signs, to be present when Emma needed her, to give space when the girl wanted to be alone. Michael proposed to Patricia 2 years after the adoption. It was on a simple afternoon, in the backyard of the house, with Emma and Snowball as witnesses. Patricia said yes, finally ready to move forward, knowing Richard would have approved. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Jennifer was the maid of honor, Eleanor the proud grandmother. Emma was the flower girl, in a pink dress she had chosen herself. And Snowball, now old and grey, lay at the foot of the altar throughout the ceremony. The house on the hill that everyone had avoided became a home full of love and laughter. Neighbors who had once whispered about the place now came to visit, admiring the renovations, praising the garden Patricia had planted. The house was no longer the scary place on the hill. It was just a house where a happy family lived. Emma grew up strong and determined. At 10, she said she wanted to be a lawyer when she grew up, like Jennifer, to help other children. At 12, she began volunteering at the shelter where she had spent her early years, reading stories to the babies, playing with the older children. At 15, she won a school award for an essay about overcoming adversity and family. Patricia watched everything with immense pride. The frightened girl she had found hiding in an old house had become a confident and compassionate young woman. Of course, there were still scars, there always would be. But Emma had learned that scars don't define who we are. They just show what we've survived. Michael became a wonderful father to Emma, though he never tried to replace the memory of Olivia. He was just himself, present, caring, always ready to help with homework or talk about the day's problems. Snowball lived to be 15, a long time for a dog. When he passed away, he was buried in the garden, under a tree Patricia had planted in their first year. Emma cried for days, but then said Snowball had had a good life, full of love, until the end. Eleanor remained a constant presence. At 80, she still made the 3-hour trip to visit her granddaughter regularly. She never stopped searching for Olivia, though she knew the chances of finding her alive after so many years were slim, but she had hope. Always hope. And then, on a September afternoon, almost 10 years after Patricia had found Emma, something extraordinary happened. Eleanor called, her voice trembling with emotion. "They found Olivia," she said. "She's alive." The world seemed to stop. Patricia nearly dropped the phone. "How? Where?" She was in a shelter for women victims of violence in Los Angeles. She was using a fake name, afraid of being found by her ex-boyfriend. But they recognized her from a news story about adopted children that aired on TV. Emma appeared in the piece. Emma was on TV. Yes. Remember that interview she gave to the local paper about volunteer work? The story was republished, went national, and Olivia saw it. Patricia had to sit down. Olivia was alive. Emma's biological mother, whom everyone thought was dead, was alive and had seen her daughter on TV. Does she want to see Emma? She's desperate to see her. But she's also scared. She's afraid Emma will hate her for leaving her. Emma won't hate her. She has the letter. She knows the truth. Can I give you her number? Olivia wants to talk to Emma if Emma wants to talk to her. Patricia agreed. After hanging up, she sat for a long time, trying to process the news. How was she going to tell Emma? The girl, now 16, had built a life, had accepted the loss of her biological mother, and now she would find out that she had been alive all along. When Emma got home from school, Patricia sat her down. "I have some news, very important news." Emma tensed up. "What is it? Did someone die?" "No, the opposite. Your mother, Olivia, she's alive." Emma went completely still. Then she whispered, "What?" Patricia told her everything, about the shelter, about the news story, about the fear that had kept Olivia hidden all these years. Emma listened without interrupting, tears beginning to stream silently down her face. "Does she want to see me?" "Yes, very much." "And am I allowed to want to see her?" "Of course you are. No one will be angry or hurt. She's your biological mother. You have every right to meet her. But you're my mom too. I am, and I always will be. This doesn't change anything between us. It just adds one more person who loves you." Emma hugged Patricia tightly. "I'm scared. I know, but it's going to be okay. I'll be here no matter what happens." The meeting was set for 2 weeks later, in a park in Denver. Olivia didn't want to come to Pine Ridge. She was still afraid of being seen, of her ex-boyfriend finding her. Patricia understood and agreed. On the scheduled day, she, Michael, Emma, and Eleanor made the trip. Emma was visibly nervous, fidgeting with her hands the whole time, staring out the window without really seeing anything. Patricia held her hand, offering silent support. Olivia was waiting near a lake, sitting on a bench. When she saw Emma approaching, she stood up, her legs shaking. She was 35 but looked older, her face marked by years of hardship. But her eyes were the same as in the photo, the same eyes Emma had. "Emma!" Olivia's voice broke. "My girl!" Emma stopped a few feet away, unsure what to do. Then Olivia opened her arms, and Emma ran into them. Mother and daughter embraced, crying, 16 years of separation melting away in that moment. Patricia watched from a distance, her own tears flowing. She felt no jealousy or fear of losing Emma. She only felt happiness at seeing the girl she had raised finally finding a missing piece of herself. After a long time, Emma stepped back from Olivia and returned to Patricia's side. "Mom," she said, and Olivia flinched at the word applied to someone else. "This is Patricia. She saved me." Olivia looked at Patricia with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, "for taking care of her when I couldn't." "No need to thank me," Patricia replied. "Emma is the best thing that ever happened to my life." They spent the whole afternoon talking. Olivia shared her story about how she had fled from her abusive boyfriend, how she had to hide, how she had seen the news report about Emma and couldn't believe her daughter was okay, that she had grown up strong and happy despite everything. "I thought you would be better off without me," Olivia said, "that I would only bring danger into your life. But I saw you on TV talking about helping other children, and I realized you had become an amazing person, and I missed all of that." "You didn't miss it," Emma said. "I'm still here, and we can start over." It wasn't easy. Olivia had her own traumas to deal with, years of abuse and fear that had left deep scars. But she started therapy, began to rebuild her life. And gradually, very gradually, she began to be a part of Emma's life. It was never a traditional mother-daughter relationship. Patricia was the one Emma called Mom, the one she turned to when she had problems, the one who signed the school papers. Olivia was something different, a friend perhaps, or an older sister. But there was love there, growing slowly, healing old wounds. 2 years later, when Emma turned 18, she organized a special party. She invited everyone who had been part of her journey, Patricia and Michael, Eleanor, Jennifer, Olivia, even some of the teachers and friends from the shelter where she volunteered. During the party, Emma asked for everyone's attention and gave a speech. "Many people here know my story," she began. "How I was abandoned as a baby, how I was adopted by people who hurt me, how I ran away and found refuge in a house everyone was afraid of, and how I met the woman who became my real mother." Patricia felt her eyes sting. "I learned a lot over these years. I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who stands by your side when things are tough. It's about who loves you on your worst days, not just your best. I learned that you can survive terrible things and still find happiness on the other side." Emma looked at Olivia. "I learned that sometimes people make hard choices out of love, that letting go can be the greatest act of love, and that it's never too late to start over." Then she looked at Patricia. "But most of all, I learned that angels exist, not with wings and halos, but with messy hair in the morning, with hands calloused from hard work, with hugs that make everything seem okay even when it's not. My mother, Patricia, is my angel, and I'm grateful every day that she heard my crying that first night." Everyone was crying now. Patricia stood up and hugged Emma, and suddenly she was surrounded by everyone in a big group hug. Eleanor, Olivia, Michael, Jennifer, all together, all part of that strange and wonderful family that fate had brought together. The party continued late into the night. Emma danced with Michael, then with Eleanor, then with Olivia. Patricia watched it all with a smile on her face, her heart overflowing with happiness. Later, when everyone had left, Emma and Patricia sat in the backyard, looking at the stars. The house on the hill glowed behind them, its windows lit up, cozy and beautiful. "Do you regret coming to live here?" Emma asked. "Finding that scared girl hiding in your attic?" Patricia laughed. "Never. Not for a second. You changed my life, Emma. You gave me purpose when I thought I had lost everything. You taught me that it's never too late to start over, that there's always hope, even in the darkest places. The house isn't scary anymore, is it?" "It was never really scary. People were afraid because they didn't understand, but we turned this place into something special. Into a home." "Exactly. Into a home." They sat there in comfortable silence, enjoying the peace of the night. Inside the house, Michael was washing the party dishes. Eleanor had stayed over and was already in the guest room. Olivia had returned to Denver, but promised to visit the following month. It was an imperfect family, full of complicated stories and painful pasts, but it was theirs, and it was complete. Emma started university the next year to study law, as she had always wanted. She continued living in the house on the hill, making the daily commute to the city where the university was located. Patricia tried to convince her to move, to be closer to the university, but Emma refused. "This is my home," she said. "This is where I belong." The years passed. Emma graduated with honors, began working on children's rights cases. Olivia found peace, managing to completely free herself from her violent past. Eleanor lived to be 92, surrounded by love, watching her granddaughter become the strong woman Olivia had always wanted her to be. Patricia and Michael grew old together in the house on the hill. They saw Emma marry a good man who treated her like a princess. They were there when Emma won her first major case, saving a child from an abusive situation. They cried with pride when she was nationally recognized for her work. And when Emma had her first daughter, a girl she decided to name Olivia Eleanor, it was Patricia who held the baby first, after the mother and father. "She will be lucky," Emma said, exhausted but radiant. "She will have the best grandmother in the world." "No," Patricia corrected, looking at the little granddaughter in her arms. "She will have the best family in the world, just like you had." Years later, when Patricia was already an elderly lady of 75, she was sitting in the same backyard where she had spent so many happy afternoons. Emma, now 40 years old, sat beside her. Little Olivia Eleanor, 10 years old, was playing nearby with her own dog, a descendant of Snowball. "You know what I realized today?" Emma said. "What?" "That no true love story starts in a conventional way. Ours certainly didn't, but it was perfect anyway." Patricia smiled, taking Emma's hand. "You know what your grandmother Eleanor once told me? That family is who shows up when you need them. And you showed up for me that night just as much as I showed up for you. The house on the hill saved us, didn't it?" "No," Patricia said gently. "We saved ourselves. The house was just the place where our paths crossed. And I'm glad they crossed." "Yes," Patricia agreed, looking at her little granddaughter playing, at the house she had turned into a home, at the daughter fate had placed in her path. "I'm glad they crossed." End of story. And you? What did you think of this story of overcoming and love? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you know any similar story. Do you think Patricia made the right decision to protect Emma? I would love to read your honest opinion. Thank you so much for following along this far. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories we will tell.